A very big shame on you, Radio Tamale. You must be ashamed of the episode of your Wake Up Tamale program featuring this joker, Alhassan Ziblim, as a so called policy analyst who flat out insulted and slandered all Islamic scholars who studied in Saudi Arabia.
Because they go to Saudi, learn about Arab culture, and they don't even know the distinction between Arab culture and Islam. Then they bring it to Dagbon, and they just use Arab culture to demonize Dagbon culture. They don't even know the difference between the Islam they have learned and the Arabian culture.
Made wrong assertions about anthropologists and sociologists in Ghana.
You talk of Dagbon, people go back to read the earlier anthropologists, what they wrote about Dagbon. Yet our later day sociologists and anthropologists write nothing about us.
Criticize technical universities in a very uninformed way, and so on and so forth. It's just full of nonsense.
Today, you have a lot of technical universities in Ghana that are mounting more liberal arts programs. Marketing, nursing,
public
relations, communications.
Yeah.
Is that technical education?
Meanwhile, he does not even know that the past tense of the word bind is bound.
The Quran that we read, the Prophet never saw a Quran as a bind book.
Let's get into some of the details of the nonsense he spewed out.
And we allow people to demonize our culture. And our pastors and imams have made things worse. Because they go to Saudi, learn about Arab culture, and they don't even know the distinction between Arab culture and Islam. Then they bring it to Dagbon, and they just use Arab culture to demonize Dagbon culture. They don't even know the difference between the Islam they have learned and the Arabian culture. Why people wear turbans in Saudi Arabia, they think it's Islam. Why people wear jalabia in Saudi Arabia, they think it's Islam. So any lifestyle the Arabs live, they take it as Islam and they bring it here, and they want to dress like them, they want to talk like them, they want to behave like them, and they think that is Islam.
This is so insulting, you know. Radio Tamale and this fake expert need to apologize to the scholars for this. Regretfully, this guy is Alhassan Ziblim, a Muslim, I suppose. Or is it just by name? Isn't it true that Islam has authentic sources that the scholars study? In fact, as an analyst of some sort, you are expected to possess some critical thinking skills that enable you to check out facts about things you are ignorant about. Can you provide a single evidence of one of the scholars saying that you are sinful if you do not dress like an Arab? Look, Islam only recommends decency and modesty in dressing with clear guidelines, which do not include adopting a particular cultural style of dressing. This is basic knowledge for any Muslim who cares about his religion. Look at the way you are dressed. Which Ghanaian cultural group dresses like that? Doesn't that cause you to think?
To the extent that you hear Malams tell children that it is haram, it is forbidden, a shirk, to bend down and greet an elderly person, because it is not done in Saudi. So if Arabs don't bend down to greet their elderly people, that is an Islamic practice. So the Gombe should also do it. Can you imagine?
Oh, Mr. Analyst without critical thinking, who told you that the reason is because it's not done in Saudi Arabia? The scholars are talking from authentic sources of Islam. You should seek to be educated on concepts you do not know, but don't fake expertise and sit on air and lie with so much confidence and pomp. In case you are claiming to be a Muslim, please be advised that your culture must conform to Islam and not the other way around, okay? Where the culture does not conform, it must be dropped for the sake of your piety. It is your piety in accordance with Islam that will lead you to salvation and not your culture. Understand that.
Even religion is dynamic. If the Prophet was here today, probably Islam will not have the outlook that it is having. The Quran that we read, the Prophet never saw a Quran as a bind book, single book. The Prophet never saw something like that throughout his lifetime. So if you are resisting change, you are denying your own history. People should let this be.
This just reveals that if you are a Muslim, you are either completely ignorant about Islam or you belong to one of the misguided sects, whose practices are innovations that contradict the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when they are advised on that, they use statements like what you just said to try to justify their misguidance. Yes, the Quran was gathered together into one book, bound, not bind, after the passing of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, the revelation was complete and the binding didn't change a word of it. Islam doesn't oblige Muslims to recite from the book. If you are blessed to memorize the whole thing, then you don't need the book. The act of worship is in the recitation, and nothing of that has changed. Note that the prohibited innovation is in matters of religion, which is why it is not a problem to use pipe-borne water, ride modern vehicles, carpet our mosques, use loudspeakers, and so on and so forth. However, we must perform ablution, pray, fast, perform pilgrimage, and other acts of worship exactly as the Prophet taught. Why doesn't that make sense to you?
It's hard to see contemporary studies that reviews even what the white people wrote about the people. You talk of Dagbon. People go back to read the earlier anthropologists, what they wrote about Dagbon. Yet our later day sociologists and anthropologists write nothing about us.
Your ignorance is not only in Islam. I wonder whether you did any research before appearing on this program. Look, here is a paper. Female chiefs in Dagbon, traditional area. Role and challenges in the northern region of Ghana. This is by Ghanaians, published in 2022. In the same year, Charles Prempe published Polishing the Pearls of Indigenous Knowledge for Inclusive Social Education in Ghana. Here's a publication in 2025. From Tradition to Modernity, Unraveling the Multifaceted Cultural Narratives and Anthropological Perspectives of Ghanaian Society in a Globalized World. There are so many other publications, but I do not want this video to be long. So what do you mean nothing is being written? Well, I hope this is enough to make this point.
If you go to America, we have a whole course in American history. Our students live here on scholarship, go to study American history. Can you imagine? Yet you can't study Ghanaian history.
Oh, what a pity. The government say number Banta will say according to houses, Mobo according to accounts. You don't even know that there are African studies programs in America. Here is the website of the African Studies Department at Howard University in the US. Look at what they are saying. Our department promotes an educational and intellectual culture that provides opportunities for students to acquire knowledge and develop skills that enable deeper understandings of Africa and Africans and their contribution to humanity. At least if you have a smartphone and know how to use the internet, it will be easy for you to find out that there are more than 80 universities in the US with African studies programs. Sometimes some of the students come back home and collect data for their research. Haven't you come across any? Is that American history? By the way, in our own University of Ghana, we have a whole institute for African studies. Again, I just think this is enough for this point. Let's see what you are saying about technical universities.
Today, you have a lot of technical universities in Ghana that are mounting more liberal arts programs. marketing,
Yeah.
nursing,
Public relation.
public relations,
Communication.
communications.
Yeah.
Is that technical education? You see, the last time your lecturer was here talking about the structure of the economy, you
Yeah.
should also talk about the structure of the educational system. Because you are a lecturer in a technical university, which is running more liberal arts programs than technical programs. How relevant is the whole curriculum to your mandate?
That's another show of lack of intelligence with the help of the host who doesn't know he can ask good questions, to help his guest stay in line. Uh, he's just helping in listing courses. What a shame. Is it right to say that technical universities do not run art programs? In fact, even if that's the case, a smart thinker will find it reasonable for Africans to break that rule and focus on the demand and needs in their countries, so that in spite of a university's focus on technical courses, it should have the capacity to run arts programs, also so that it will not subject itself to suffering that may be caused by low enrollment in the technical courses. I mean, doesn't that make sense to you? Let me turn your attention to America once again. Have you heard of MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology? Have you heard of them? They have a School of Arts, Humanity, and Social Sciences. Look at the courses: political science, economics, history, linguistics, literature, global languages, and so on and so forth. Does that make the university non-technical? You're such a disgrace to whoever you are affiliated to. I hear UDS also. They must be, I don't know. I will leave it there. I will leave it there. In case you find me harsh, I would like you to know that I held back a lot. I haven't even given 10% of what your misconduct deserves. The greater blame is on Radio Tamale that couldn't find anything better to do with their airtime. Think if both of you reason, you will issue the deserved apology. Those scholars who studied in Saudi Arabia, they are not people you have the license to sit on air and lash at that way.